June 10, 1932, 3:14 a.m., an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Dallas, Texas. The air is thick, a humid blanket that smells of stagnant river water and oxidized iron. Inside the darkness, a single match flares. Clyde Barrow's face is a map of exhaustion and sharp angles, illuminated for a fraction of a second before he shakes the flame out. Beside him, Bonnie Parker leans against a rusted support beam, her breathing shallow, the tip of her cigarette a glowing ember. Then, the sound, click-clack. It's the unmistakable, heavy mechanical slide of a Browning automatic rifle bar. Clyde hefted the weapon, a 7-kilo beast of cold steel, and felt the weight of a revolution. This wasn't just a gun, it was a statement. With this, Clyde whispers, his voice rasping like sandpaper on stone, we don't just rob stores, we own the road. Across from them stand 6 silhouettes, men and women hand-picked, not for their loyalty, but for their desperation. They are the new architecture of a criminal empire. In the corner, a massive wooden crate lies pried open, revealing a glinting treasury of Colt .45s, Thompson's submachine guns, and thousands of rounds of ammunition. This was the moment the Barrow gang died, and a new, more lethal mafia of the Dust Bowl was born. But to understand how 2 small-time fugitives came to command a private army, we have to look back at the blood-soaked soil of the Eastern prison farm. Clyde's hands tremble slightly as he remembers the lash. Every scar on his back was a brick in the wall of his hatred for the law. He wasn't looking for a paycheck anymore. He was looking for a reckoning. He looks at the 6 recruits. The rules are simple, he tells them, the silence of the warehouse magnifying his words. We move fast, we hit hard, and we never, ever leave a brother behind. If you're in, you're dead to the world already. A distant siren will a lonely, mournful sound from the city center. The recruits don't flinch. They've already crossed the line. The first crate is emptied. The first magazine is slammed home. The war has begun. As they prepare to leave, Bonnie notices a shadow moving near the loading dock. She raises her pistol, but Clyde stops her. Not yet, he says. We need someone alive to tell the story, ... for now. February 1932, 2 months earlier. The Esom State Prison Farm. The Texas sun is a vengeful god. Clyde Barrow stands in the middle of a cotton field, his hands blistered and bleeding. The dust enters his lungs, making every breath a struggle. This is where Cliff's soul was hollowed out. He wasn't just a prisoner, he was a victim of a system designed to break men into dust. To understand the new mafia Clyde wanted to build, you have to understand the hierarchy of the Texas penal system. It was a world of trustees and captains, where a man's life was worth less than a pack of tobacco. It was here that Clyde met Raymond Hamilton, a man with cold eyes and a mind like a razor. They think they've got us caged, Hamilton muttered as they worked the rows under the watchful eye of a guard on horseback. But cages have bars, and bars can be cut. Clyde didn't just want to escape, he wanted to build something that could fight back. He watched the way the guards communicated, the way the logistics of the prison worked. He was studying, he was learning how to manage men under pressure. He realized that the traditional mafia in the North worked because of structure. The outlaws of the South failed because they were chaotic. He whispered to Hamilton, when I get out, I'm building a crew, not a gang, a syndicate. We use the cars they can't catch and the guns they can't face. The decision was made. To fund this vision, he would need Bonnie. She wasn't just his lover. She was his strategist, his publicist, and his anchor. While Clyde provided the fire, Bonnie provided the narrative. She knew that in a world of the Great Depression, people wanted heroes even if those heroes were covered in blood. Back in the present-day warehouse, Clyde looks at Hamilton, now one of the 6. The debt of the prison farm is about to be paid in full, with interest. Clyde reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small, jagged piece of metal, the same one he used to cut off his own toes in prison to avoid hard labor. He drops it into the crate. No more running, he says. Now, we hunt. June 12, 1932. 10:15 a.m., a dusty back road outside of Joplin, Missouri. The V8 Ford engine hummed a beautiful, mechanical growl that Clyde treated like a heartbeat. He loved the Ford V8. It was the only thing faster than a police siren. The new Mafia wasn't just about shooting, it was about movement. Clyde had developed a system of border jumping. They would commit a crime in one state and cross the line into another before the local sheriff could even finish his coffee. In 1932, police jurisdictions were a mess of red tape. Clyde used that tape to strangle them. In the backseat of the lead car, Bonnie is typing. Not a ransom note, but a poem. She understood the power of the press. If the public loved them, the police would have a harder time killing them. They call us killers, Bonnie says, her voice light but sharp as she looks at the 3 cars following them in a tight formation. But we're just entrepreneurs of the open road. The crew consists of specialists now. One man is a master of the getaway, another knows every back road from Oklahoma to Illinois, and 2 others are heavy hittersmen who can handle the bars without flinching. This was the new Mafia structure, decentralized, mobile, and terrifyingly well armed. They pull into a small, secluded gas station. The owner, an old man with overalls and a tired face, looks at the 4 shiny Fords and the well-dressed men inside. He doesn't see outlaws, he sees customers. Cliff pays him with a $20 bill, half a month's wages for the old man, and tells him to keep the change. That's how you buy loyalty. Cliff tells the crew as they pull away, a bullet buys silence, but a $20 bill buys a friend. But the friendship of the public is a fickle thing. Behind them, a black sedan has been trailing them for 3 miles. It's not the police. It's a rival faction from the Kansas City underworld, and they don't like new competition on their turf. The back window of the black sedan rolls down. A flash of chrome catches the sun. Cliff sees it in the rearview mirror and smirks. Welcome to the war, boys. June 15th, 1932. 1:20 a.m. A rain-slicked alleyway in Kansas City. The smell of wet asphalt and garbage is overwhelming. The city is a labyrinth of brick and shadow. The Barrows Syndicate has moved into the territory of the Pendergast machine, the political and criminal powerhouse of Kansas City. Clyde didn't come here to rob a bank. He came here to establish a trade route for the guns he'd stolen from the National Guard armory. The new Mafia needed capital, and the established gangs wanted firepower. The meeting is set in a basement speakeasy called The Gilded Cage. Music filters through the floorboards, a frantic jazz trumpet that sounds like a scream. Clyde walks in with Bonnie on his arm and 2 men behind him carrying the heavy crates. The local boss, a man named Fat Joey Galento, sits at a circular table. He doesn't rise. You're a long way from the farm, Barrow, Galento sneers. In this city, we play by rules. You're just a pair of kids with a stolen Ford. Clyde doesn't say a word. He gestures to his men. The crate is opened. The bar is laid on the table, its barrel reflecting the dim, amber light of the room. These aren't rules, Joey, Clyde says, leaning in so close he can smell the garlic and cheap wine on the boss's breath. This is physics. His gun fires 600 rounds a minute. It goes through car doors, brick walls, and fat men who talk too much. The room goes silent. The tension is a physical weight. One of Galento's bodyguards moves his hand toward his jacket. Cliff Bonnie has a small, .25 caliber pistol pressed against the underside of the table, aimed directly at Galento's groin. She smiles a sweet, terrifying smile. Let's keep it civil, Joey. We're all business people here. The deal is struck. The Barrows Syndicate gets the cash and the contacts. But as they walk out into the rain, Clyde knows they've made a powerful enemy. The new Mafia has its first contract out on its head. As they reach their cars, a Thompson submachine gun erupts from a second-story window. The bricks beside Clyde's head shatter into red dust. June 15th, 1932, 1:25 a.m. The streets of Kansas City. The ambush is a symphony of chaos. Glass sprays across the interior of the Ford as Clyde floors the accelerator. The engine screams, tires spinning on the wet cobblestones. "Return fire!" Clyde roars. From the back seat, Raymond Hamilton leans out the window with a bar. The muzzle flash is blinding, a rhythmic thud-thud-thud that shakes the entire frame of the car. The second-story window where the shooter is perched disappears in a cloud of splinters and glass. The public would later hear of a battle that lasted for hours, but in reality, it was over in 90 seconds. It was the raw power of the syndicate's weaponry against the old-school mob tactics. Clyde drives like a demon, taking corners on 2 wheels. Using his knowledge of the city's back alleys studied meticulously from maps days before to lose their pursuers. He isn't just driving, he's conducting a getaway. They reach the outskirts of the city, the cars bullet-ridden but functional. They pull into a darkened grove of trees to assess the damage. One of the new recruits, a young man named Henry, is clutching his shoulder. Blood seeps through his fingers, dark and thick like oil. I'm hit, Clyde. I'm hit bad. Henry whimpers. Clyde looks at him. There is no pity in his eyes, only calculation. A wounded man is a slow man. A slow man gets the syndicate caught. Bonnie steps forward with a medical kit, but Clyde puts a hand on her arm. We made a deal, Henry, Clyde says quietly. No one gets left behind, but no one puts the family at risk either. The tension among the other 4 recruits is palpable. They are seeing the theme of the syndicate. The mission is more important than the man. Clyde isn't a boss, he's a general. Clyde hands Henry a flask of whiskey and a fresh pistol. We're going to a doctor we know in Oklahoma. If you can't make the drive, tell me now. Henry nods, trembling. But in the darkness, Bonnie sees Clyde checking the rounds in his own revolver. July 4th, 1932, 9 p.m. somewhere near the Red River, Oklahoma. While the rest of America celebrates Independence Day with fireworks, the Barrows Syndicate is celebrating with silence. They are camping in a dense thicket, the cars covered in brush. They have become ghosts. The FBI, under a young J. Edgar Hoover, is starting to take notice. The new Mafia is breaking the one rule the government can't ignore. They are making the law look incompetent. Clyde sits by a small, smokeless fire, cleaning his weapons. It's a ritual. He treats the steel like a lover. Bonnie is reading the newspaper by flashlight. They're calling us the terror of the plains. She reads, a hint of pride in her voice. They say we have 100 men. They say we're planning to hit the Federal Reserve. Clyde laughs, a dry, hacking sound. Let them think that. Fear is better than a bullet. If they think we're an army, they'll act like we're an army. They'll be too scared to move without 100 men of their own. But the new Mafia is starting to fray at the edge. The 6 recruits are tired. The adrenaline of the first few weeks has been replaced by the grinding reality of life on the run. They eat cold beans from cans. They sleep in shifts. The theme of power is being tested by the reality of poverty. One of the recruits, a man named Buck, Clyde's own brother, has joined them. Buck brings a sense of family, but also a sense of vulnerability. He's not a killer. He's a man who loves his wife. Blancho is also with them. This isn't what you promised, Clyde, Buck says, gesturing to the muddy ground. You said we'd be kings. We're just dogs in the woods. Clyde stands up. The firelight casts long demonic shadows across his face. Kings don't start on thrones, Buck. They start in the dirt. We hid the bank in Atoka tomorrow. That's our coronation. Unknown to Clyde, one of the recruits has been slipping away during his watch to leave marks on telephone poles, a code for a girl he left behind, or perhaps for someone else. August 5th, 1932, 11:30 a.m., Atoka, Oklahoma. The town is sleepy, baking in the midday heat. A dog naps in the middle of the street. It's the perfect target. The syndicate moves with military precision. 2 cars block the ends of the main street. One man stays with each car, the bars resting on the door frames, scanning the rooftops. Clyde, Buck, and Hamilton walk into the bank. There is no shouting. There is no drama. Clyde simply walks to the teller, smiles, and shows him the snout of a sawed-off shotgun. We're the Barrows, Clyde says, his voice conversational. We'd like to make a withdrawal. All of it. Outside, the tension is snapping. A local deputy, not realizing what's happening, walks out of the barber shop. He sees the armed man by the ford. He reaches for his belt. Cracked the sniper Clyde placed on the roof of the hardware store. The 6th recruit takes the shot. The deputy falls. The silence of the town is shattered. Inside the bank, the sound of the gunshot changes everything. Clyde's face hardens. Bag it now. They scramble out of the bank just as the town begins to wake up to the nightmare. Bullets begin to fly from windows as the locals reach for their hunting rifles. But they are bringing pea shooters to a cannon fight. The syndicate opens up. The sound is deafening, a continuous roar of automatic fire that chews through the wooden storefronts. The new Mafia doesn't just shoot to kill, they shoot to suppress. They create a wall of lead that makes it impossible for anyone to even look at the street. As they roar out of town, dust clouds choking the air, they have $3,000 in cash, but they have left a dead lawman behind. The line has been crossed. This isn't just robbery anymore, it's an insurgency. Back at the hideout, Clyde counts the money. He looks at the sniper who took the shot. He did well, Clyde says. Then he notices the man's hand is shaking so hard, he drops his cigarette. September 12th, 1932, 2 a.m., a safe house in Dallas. The new Mafia is wealthy now. but they are trapped. Every hotel, every gas station, every diner is a potential trap. The stress is a poison. They are hiding in a cramped apartment provided by a friend of the syndicate. The smell of cheap perfume and unwashed bodies fills the room. Blanche, Buck's wife, is hysterical. She wasn't built for this life. We're going to die here, she screams. Look at us. We're trapped like rats. Cliff ignores her. He is looking at a map, but his mind is elsewhere. He knows there is a rat in the room. The police have been too close, too many times. They knew about the Atoka getaway route. They knew about the Joplin hideout. He calls a meeting. These 6 recruits sit in a semicircle. Bonnie sits next to Clyde, a notebook in her lap. She looks like a judge. Someone's talking, Clyde says. His voice is a low, dangerous growl. Someone thinks they can buy their way out by selling me. But here's the thing about the syndicate. The only way out is in a pine box. He looks at each of them. The theme of loyalty is no longer a romantic ideal. It's a death sentence. I found this, Bonnie says, holding up a small, crumpled piece of paper. It's a map of their next planned hit, with handwritten notes on the back about police response times. It's not Clyde's handwriting. It's not Buck's. Clyde stands up and draws his revolver. He walks over to the recruit, who had been shaking after the Atoka job. The young man, the sniper, looks up, his eyes wide. I have a mother, Clyde, ... She's sick. They said they'd help her. Cliff doesn't fire. He lowers the gun and whispers, I know. He turns to the others. Pack your bags. We leave in 5 minutes. Except for him. October 1932, the Louisiana Shromlins. The syndicate is smaller now. 2 recruits are dead. 1 is in jail, and the sniper was left in that Dallas apartment with a single bullet in his brain. The new Mafia is collapsing back into what it always was, Bonnie and Clyde against the world. They are driving through the swamps, the moss hanging from the trees like funeral shrouds. The humidity is so high, the air feels like water. Clyde is tired, really tired. The 2 steps ahead strategy is failing because the world has become too small. J. Edgar Hoover has authorized the use of any means necessary. They have hired Frank Hammer, a retired Texas Ranger with a reputation for being a human bloodhound. He's coming, isn't he? Bonnie asks. She's looking at her reflection in the window. She looks older. The glamour of the outlaw queen has been washed away by the rain of a dozen stapes. Let him come, Clyde says, but there's no conviction in his voice. We have the bars. We have the Fords. We're legends, Bonnie. Legends don't die in the mud. The more famous you are, the easier you are to find. Every person who ever helped them is now being squeezed by Hammer. The hierarchy Clyde tried to build the structure. The logistics, it's all fallen apart. They pull over to help a stranded motorist on a lonely stretch of road near Gippsland, Louisiana. It's a man they recognized, the father of one of their former recruits, a man who owes them his life. Clyde stops the car. He relaxes his grip on the wheel. For the first time in months, he feels a sense of peace. Hey, Ivy, Clyde calls out. Need a hand? Ivy doesn't answer. He dives under his truck. Clyde's eyes widen. He reaches for the gear shift, but it's too late. May 23, 1934, 9:15 a.m., Highway 154, Sales, Louisiana. The silence of the morning is broken by a bird's song. Then, the world ends. Frank Hammer and his men are hidden in the brush. They don't call out a warning. They don't ask for a surrender. They know that the new Mafia doesn't surrender. They only fight. 6 men rise from the bushes. They aren't carrying pistols. They are carrying the very weapons Clyde championed, automatic rifles and shotguns. The first volley hits the Ford V8 like a hammer. The glass shatters instantly. Bonnie screams a sound that'll haunt the officers for the rest of their lives. Cliff is hit in the head in the first second, his dreams of a criminal empire vanishing in a spray of crimson. They don't stop firing. They pump 167 rounds into the car. The metal is shredded. When the smoke clears, the silence returns, heavier than before. The Ford is a colander of steel. Inside, the syndicate is gone. There are only 2 broken bodies and a pile of guns that couldn't save them. In the end, Clyde's new Mafia failed not because of a lack of firepower, but because of a lack of soul. You can't build a family on a foundation of hate and stolen Fords. The theme of power had exacted its final, absolute price. The news spreads like wildfire. People flock to the scene, tearing pieces of Bonnie's dress for souvenirs, dipping handkerchiefs in the blood. They wanted a piece of the legend, even the gruesome parts. The story of the 1932 crate of guns ends here, in the dirt of a Louisiana highway. The Barrows Syndicate tried to turn chaos into a business, but in the end, the system they fought used their own tactics to take them down. Was Clyde a visionary criminal ahead of his time, or just a desperate man with a big gun? Would you have stayed loyal to the Syndicate, or would you have been the one to leave the mark on the telephone pole? Leave a comment below, like this video, and subscribe for more deep dives into the dark side of history. The road is long, and the stories never end.